Hey, it's Justin, and I love escape rooms. An escape room is an immersive, interactive room where participants are expected to find clues, solve puzzles, work cooperatively, all while remaining calm while the clock is ticking down. The idea of an escape room is that it really tests your mettle as you think outside the box and you communicate with your peers in an appropriate way in order to escape in time. I'm an escape room lover personally, and I've been and participate in quite a few, and I've actually even attempted to integrate my love for escape rooms into the classroom as a teacher, and I've had varying degrees of success with this. So I approached Nick and Ray, who are the owners of Panic Factory Escape Rooms in Curtis, with the idea of creating an escape room-influenced puzzle box for teachers to use as a teaching strategy in their classrooms, and they loved the idea. They've actually said that they've had a couple of local teachers from the community who approached them and asked them if they have anything like this that could be used in the classroom. So when I brought it to their attention, they really thought that this was something that we could work on together to come up with. So I began my internship. Initially, my internship began with just a single learning goal, and that was to create an engaging social studies escape room styled activity for students to use as a learning tool in the classroom. I'll take a few minutes now to discuss some of my success criteria, how I succeeded in them, or how in some ways I could have succeeded if I had shaped them a little differently. So firstly, one of my success criteria was to become more comfortable with the document, the Ontario Social Studies document. So during my internship, my supervisors and I, we combed through the document to brainstorm ideas for our puzzle box. We looked kind of at all the grades and all the topics, but we did settle on grade 4 political and physical regions of Canada. As we were brainstorming, we had a bunch of ideas. We were able to start developing a story. We had a couple of puzzle thoughts that we had in mind when we were starting. So that's what we settled on, grade 4 political and physical regions of Canada. We looked at the achievement charts, some of the big ideas, the expectations for the topic, specific and overall. We examined material for grade 3. We looked at some of the grade 5 material so that we could see where they were coming from, what prior knowledge they would have already had, and where they're going to be going to so that we can prepare them for that. But I do feel that upon reflection, I maybe wasn't specific enough with my learning goal, or my success criteria. I did say in my success criteria that I was to become more familiar with the Ontario Social Studies curriculum document, but really what I did was become more familiar with grade 4 political and physical regions of Canada, that part of the document. I did, like I said, look around at a little bit of the other parts, but not so much in detail like I did with the grade 4 political and physical regions of Canada. So maybe if I had specified to just say one specific part, then I might have been more successful. Another one of my success criteria that I feel that I did really succeed with was the integration of the curriculum into all my work. I tried really hard to make sure that all of my activities in my box were grounded in curriculum expectations, and they were all scaffolded appropriately. I worked hard to make sure that they did not need any prior knowledge beyond what was in this box already, and that all the material was taught in a way that flowed appropriately. So, for example, they weren't learning about the provinces of or the capitals of the province, or the physical regions of Canada before they knew what the provinces were, right? However, there was another success criteria that I had stated. That I was going to have a complete game box ready by the end of my internship. Upon reflection, this is obviously not a very realistic goal. When I started my internship, I didn't know how much research and how much problem solving and how many hurdles I was going to have working through it. And many times, there would be times when I'd spend hours working on an activity or working on a puzzle only to find out that it just didn't work, and I had to figure it out. I had to go back and revisit and work on it again. And the obstacles ended up eating up a lot of my time, which meant that I ended up being successful in designing a single layer of my box instead of the 4 or 5 that I wanted to have. But I feel like I could have made this more realistic simply by setting out smaller chunks. Next time I might say I'm going to just design a couple of puzzles that I'm going to be able to use in a short time span instead of a whole box. So as I mentioned, there were a number of challenges that arose during the development of the activity. Most of the challenges involved the concept of puzzle development, age appropriateness, and how they could be used in the classroom. Often I did have difficult time keeping my audience in mind because I love escape rooms so much, and I've been to so many, and because I was working with experienced puzzle designers who have also been through a lot of escape rooms, it was hard for us to separate our sense of what a traditional escape room looked like and what an escape room that could be used in a classroom as a teaching tool would look like. Typically in a traditional escape room, all the participants are expected to connect their own dots, make their own mental leaps of logic, and that's just not something that students in grade 4 are really capable of doing. According to Piaget and his stages of child development, children at this age are only really just learning how to think abstractly, and so they would struggle to make these kind of mental leaps of logic that an adult who was going to an escape room would be able to do. I also had to make sure that my teacher hat was always on, and I had to remember that the goal of the project was specifically to teach, and so I had to make sure that all the content that I wanted to teach was there and not leave in these blanks like I would expect in a traditional escape room. Another challenge that I always had in the back of my mind was, how do I make this project brand appropriate? How do I put that Panic Factory logo on it so that my supervisors can be proud of it? Oftentimes my supervisors would stress to me that they wanted the project to be cool, they wanted to be exciting, and had to have a wow factor, kind of like their rooms at Panic Factory. However, the project had to be portable and taken to the classroom. It had to be easily reset by teachers, and it had to be easily problem solved using just a small instruction sheet or that kind of thing. And therefore, the kind of technology that I might have been working on was not the technology I might have been working with was not the kind of technology it would have at their location. So they gave me a goal. They said that I was only allowed to use maybe 1 or 2 9-volt batteries, and that was the majority of electricity I was allowed to use. But they still wanted these cool wow factor tools. It proved difficult, but it wasn't impossible. They did teach me about a lot of things: switches, sensors, magnets, and other things that the business uses to create really cool effects without kind of blowing the budget or using a lot of technology. So I thought that was really cool. Speaking of my supervisors, I got along really well with them. One thing that I found really interesting was that the two of them very clearly had defined roles, but they did share as much of the business as they possibly could. So one supervisor was the lead designer, the other was in charge of technology and construction, but they both contributed to each other. So the builder would design puzzles, and the puzzle designer would often take part in building and doing what they needed to do for the rooms. There were often times I was able to speak with each of them and draw on their individual strengths, and that helped me understand my goal a bit more. So an example of this, frequently I would brainstorm with the puzzle designer about an idea that I was super excited about. We'd get it to where we wanted it to be, and then I would talk it over with the builder, and he would tell me that it's just impossible given the amount of technology that I had. So then the three of us would sit down together, and we'd find a new solution that would work instead, and ultimately we'd all be more happier with the solution that we'd come up with. Through this process, unexpectedly, I learned a little bit of basic electrical work, woodworking work, as well as basic entrepreneurial skills and puzzle designing skills and all that kind of thing. It was great, and I didn't expect to learn as much as I did. I had a lot of support from my supervisors overall. They would support me when I hit an obstacle, and they would remind me that it was part of the process. I wasn't expected to know it all. I wasn't expected to do it overnight, and they said it's okay to take breaks, and that was something that I really appreciated hearing oftentimes. Several times they encouraged me to use a different perspective and to view things a little bit differently, and that would often help lead me to a new breakthrough and be able to help me design a new puzzle that I would be proud of. So where are my steps for the future? In the future, I'd like to further develop this box. I only was able to get one layer done, like I said, so I'd like to be able to develop it into something that they would like to sell, or that I could use in my classroom even. I'd also like to look at more different topics, different grades, maybe something for high school, or maybe something for primary kids, because like I said, I know they don't start learning about or being able to think abstractly until they're a little bit older, but it might be an interesting challenge for me to be able to design something for younger kids as well. Because I was so ambitious with my success criteria, where I expected myself to have a whole box, and I wasn't able to anticipate all the obstacles that I would have. It's actually given me a different perspective to see from the lens of my students in the future when I assign them a task and I don't foresee the obstacles that they might run into. So I do now understand that I need to be able to take into account obstacles that are unforeseen when I give them a task. Overall, I really enjoyed my time at Panic Factory, and I would like to thank Nick and Ray, the owners of Panic Factory, for the experience that I had. Thank you.